Well, new concerns over Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's health after he appeared to freeze in front of reporters for the second time in just more than a month.
I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you.
That's okay. What are your thoughts on running for re-election in 2026?
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026?
yes.
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator Benny.
Yep.
Go ahead outside, son. Come with us.
Okay.
Well, that moment
sorry,
just
I had a hard
fueling
time
more
hearing.
worries about the 81-year-old Republican after he previously appeared to freeze in front of reporters during this news conference just a little more than a month ago. And now this is even raising more questions about aging politicians overall on both sides of the aisle. ABC News contributing political correspondent Rachael Bade joining me now from Washington, along with board-certified neurologist Dr. Leah Croll. Rachel, let's just start with you. What are you hearing from your sources on the Hill about Mitch McConnell, his health, his condition? At some point, a statement really needs to be made. I mean, voters are entitled to that kind of transparency.
Yeah, Kira, I think the most noteworthy thing here is actually what we're not hearing from folks on Capitol Hill, and that is an explanation of what exactly is going on with McConnell's health. I mean, this is the second time in just a few weeks that he has had one of these episodes where he cannot move, and his office is still sort of chalking this up to lightheadedness and trying to paper over it, telling reporters, you know, he's out doing this and that, he did that fundraiser after this episode, he talked to these people, he gave this speech, sort of acting like it's no big deal. And, you know, I think we should note that Senate Republicans are very much behind Mitch McConnell. You don't hear them coming out and saying he needs to resign or retire or step aside from leadership, but I am hearing a sense of frustration from my sources in the Senate, especially amongst Republicans. One told me specifically, if we're going to stick with McConnell, he kind of owes us to tell us what's going on. And just one more note, Kira, this goes against recent precedent that we've seen when it comes to lawmakers and their health. John Fetterman came out and said, you know, he was suffering from depression when he was hospitalized. Senator Ben Ray Lujan was transparent when he had a stroke and was struggling after that stroke. And then just this week, we saw House Majority Leader Steve Scalise come out and say he was diagnosed with blood cancer. So that is the trend that we have seen, and that's what voters expect and their colleagues expect. And this position for McConnell very much seems untenable with him not saying what is going on.
Right, absolutely. And Dr. Croll, you know, we spoke to you last month about McConnell's health when he previously appeared to freeze on camera. Clearly, you're not his physician. You have not assessed him, but you're a neurologist. What are your concerns as you witness these moments, very uncomfortable moments, I think, for folks?
Thanks for having me again, Kira. Absolutely, like we said last time, I can't make a diagnosis by watching him on camera. But I think what we can say here is clearly he's having repeated neurologic events. What is underlying them, we don't know. But the fact that he's having repeated events is very worrisome to me as a neurologist. The first place my mind goes when I have patients that come to me with repeated events like this is safety. You know, the more frequently events are happening, the more likely that an event will occur at a really inopportune time. For example, with my patients, I worry about them getting behind the wheel of a car or crossing the street. Senator McConnell may not have those specific concerns, but the general idea is that the more frequently events are happening, the more likely you could get yourself into a really dangerous situation. And the other reason for concern here is that clearly there's something underlying these events, and we want to make sure that that underlying problem is being addressed appropriately.
Of course. And Rachel, we have 2024 presidential election embeds, you know, stretched across the entire country, talking with Americans about all kinds of issues, including the rising ages among lawmakers here in Washington. Let's take a listen.
I think it's time for new leadership, and I think it's somewhat unfortunate that the other candidates are not very serious.
See, we got term limits for president, 2 terms, so why not have it for our congressmen and our senators?
And Rachael McConnell is not the only aging politician or the oldest. I mean, he's just 1 year older than President Biden.
Yeah, that's right. And it certainly makes for awkward optics when you have a lot of Republicans on the campaign trail attacking President Biden as being too old to run for re-election. I mean, McConnell's right up there with him in age. And, this is absolutely a trend we're seeing right now amongst the electorate on both sides of the aisle. Just, a year ago, we saw Nancy Pelosi and her deputies, Steny Hoyer and James Clyburn, get sort of pressured to step aside because they were in their 70s and 80s, and Democrats believed it was time for new leadership. Now you hear a lot of people talking about term limits on the campaign trail. Nikki Haley has this proposal that has created a lot of buzz about mental competency tests. So it very much is resonating right now. And I think when it comes to McConnell specifically, we can point out that we are very much on the cusp of a huge transition with Senate Republican leadership. I mean, he's 81. He's been the leader since 2007, longest serving leader in the Senate. And the reality is even if his health improves or he can continue to serve despite what's going on, him and Donald Trump don't get along at all. And Donald Trump right now is way ahead in the polls, could potentially be the Republican nominee. And that's also going to put McConnell in a position of, questioning whether he can really do this job.
Well, and Dr. Croll, as a neurologist, talking with patients about sensitive and private health issues and even mortality, look, that can be really uncomfortable, a really tough conversation to have. How would you handle this if indeed you were McConnell's doctor? And then how would you advise family members on how to have these talks and just be proactive in the moment?
I want to be careful not to speculate about McConnell because, of course, we have no information about specifically what's happening with him. But I can tell you as a neurologist, this is probably one of the most challenging aspects of the job because it is not easy to have these conversations. And I think the key here is a patient-centered approach. So my approach would be to talk with the patient, assess their understanding of what's going on, and then really evaluate what are their goals moving forward, what are their concerns, their fears, their worries, and how can we come together to create a treatment plan or any plan moving forward that works for their unique needs. For family members, I do encourage them to talk to patients before they get sick. As we're getting older or if we're in early stages of diseases, that's when you really want to start having these conversations. Number one, because you want the patient to be able to express their opinion so that you can later honor their wishes. And number two, because you just want to make sure that the patient is not saying anything out of an extreme level of discomfort or fear. It's best to talk to them early.
Great advice. Rachael, Leah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.